The Unknown, a killer whose name sums up pretty much everything there is to say about him. Who the hell knows? His lore doesn't tell us who he is or what he is. His powers embodied are an amalgamation of different capabilities and creep factor. He is just one creepy SOB. But that was the point, I think. I'll be honest, when I first laid eyes on this thing, I was ready to say it was the most disturbing killer design I'd ever laid eyes on. Like, my God, it was ugly. It was a terrifying abomination. But then something changed, and we'll get to that a bit later. But for now, let's go into the lore of which we know very little. The Unknown is an urban legend, and the lore tells us from the perspective of a woman named Olivia who's researching the Unknown that she's trying to prove it's not real. It could just be a slasher killer or some strange series of coincidental disappearances. All that anyone does know about the Unknown is that talking about the Unknown, trying to draw its image, or even talk about it openly is taboo. Think something along the lines of Bloody Mary being said 3 times in a bathroom mirror. Although I've tried that and nothing ever happened, although, time may tell. Supposedly trying to speculate on the Unknown is enough to draw its attention. Olivia finds it all silly, but she also notes that there are other legends around Greenville too. Like how 2 girls went missing amidst putrid black fog, which doesn't align with anything else we know about the Unknown. So she laughs and wonders, what would happen when 2 urban legends collide? Well, I'll tell you what happens. Hollywood sequels. I'm kidding. Anyway, that night, Olivia hears someone calling her name. A creepy voice inside her own bathroom. She at first wonders if it's her friends playing a joke on her, but then she realizes that's impossible, and she gets very worried. Terrified, she wonders what it could be when suddenly the voice changes. It's no longer calling her name, it's panicking. It's screaming. It's struggling. She finally opens the door, and all she sees is a mass of black tendrils dragging a flailing and thrashing thing into the bowels of darkness. It seems that 2 urban legends collided, and one completely dominated the other. So, yeah, I'd say that this is actually pretty good lore, but it's vague. What I'll say good about this lore is that it does a great job of creating a fear factor. The lore carries a sort of tone like a campfire story, like the kind of thing you'd tell while huddled around a bonfire at night to scare each other. A monster with no definable qualities. The story of a simple woman who didn't believe and was only to be targeted later. And then the idea that this urban legend may not be the most threatening thing out there. And this was a creative direction. Couldn't you see like a group of folks sitting around a campfire saying, today I'm going to tell you the story of the Unknown. Even talking about this monster, trying to draw its image, could make you its next victim. In those situations, you don't need to describe it. Ordinarily, I'd say that the fact that the Unknown isn't given a real origin is a bit weak, but at the same time, it does work for what we're trying to do. Like I said, the Unknown is meant to be an urban legend, a creature of nightmare told to frighten people. A background and origin isn't required for this. However, I will admit it bothers me I don't quite know what this thing is. When I first saw it, I thought it was a reference to John Carpenter's The Thing. I thought it might be an alien because it's in its unique Maury, it acts kind of like The Thing does. But at the same time, it doesn't have the same powers as The Thing. It doesn't try to mimic other people's bodies or anything like that. I mean, it kind of does by stealing their skin, but that's still not quite the same thing. Maybe it's a spirit or eldritch horror. I mean, you can't really know. It really is, at the end of the day, an unknown. And that's scarier than anything else I can say. That's kind of the thing. I'll put it this way. I find that there is more fear in the monster you don't know or understand than the one you do. Like, let's put it this way. My brother asked me a really cool question one time. Would you rather be a gothic-style vampire hunter, hunting vampires the way Van Helsing would in the movie Van Helsing? Or would you rather be a paranormal investigator hunting the unknown? I said I'd rather be a vampire hunter because I know how vampires work. I know their clear strengths and weaknesses. I know how vampires operate, so I know how I could take them. Paranormal investigators, you don't know anything. You're going in kind of blind and hoping you can figure out the clues along the way. That's way more risky. So when dealing with something that's scary, I would argue the thing you don't know is what will scare you more. That's why we're afraid of the dark. We don't know what's in it. We don't know what's coming. I've told my parents many times, the real fear for me is not knowing. The thing you don't understand. And that's what makes the unknown so scary, which is why, while I wish this lore wasn't so vague, it kind of works best that it's vague. Now, okay, before we go any further, All right, let's address the elephant in the room because some people are going to ask me to address it, so let's get this out of the way. It's hard to talk about the unknown without also addressing the controversy surrounding the unknown's creation. So the unknown apparently has the ability to kill its victims, then wear their skin in grotesque ways, even mimicking male and female voices depending on the kind of skin it's wearing. To accomplish this voice shift, Behavior hired Zoe Alexandria to voice both the male and female voice lines. Now, Zoe was a gifted voice actress and transgender individual. However, many in the transgender community became quite upset when they saw the design of the unknown, claiming that the horrific body was a horrid and disgusting caricature of trans people. And none of this was helped by Zoe going on Twitter to express her disappointment in Behavior that she hadn't been made aware of the design until after the lines were given. Now, despite Zoe coming on later and releasing a follow-up post saying Behavior is not transphobic, there's still a small community in the fringes of the Behavior and Dead by Daylight community that find the design distasteful. Now, from my perspective, I certainly don't think the unknown is a caricature of a transgender person. I never thought that. That never even crossed my mind until I learned about the controversy. But I won't lie, once I did learn about the controversy and I learned how many people jumped to that conclusion, it took some of the fear factor away from the killer for me. It's amazing how much a simple controversy like that can almost ruin the real terror factor of a killer for someone. I can't look at the killer now without thinking about that controversy, which really sucks because, I'll be honest, Zoe did a great job with the voices. I think that it was a very good job on Behavior for bringing in a talented voice actress like that to do it. And I am sorry that Zoe died shortly after the release of The Killer, which is very unfortunate. But more to the point, I think that the unknown's lore, again, while vague, is not bad. And I think that it took a lot of time and talent to create a monster this terrifying, this creative, and this well acted. So that's all I'll say about that. We're moving on. And besides, most of you don't care about the lore or the controversy anyway. You care about the powers and perks. So let's go into the powers. What can the unknown do? The unknown's power is UVX. And no, I don't remember what it stands for either. And no, I don't feel like looking it up. Hold down the power button to charge your UVX and you'll see this little disgusting thing pop up underneath your screen. Once fully charged, you can launch a bouncing projectile that, when it explodes, will release a blast that covers 2.25 meters. Survivors caught in the blast radius will suffer from the weakened state. When in the weakened state, the survivor has a strange, colorful aura around their heads. If a weakened survivor is hit by another UVX blast, they will be injured or down depending on their health state. The only way to remove the weakness effect is to look at the unknown for 10 seconds, which will remove the effect. But that's not all. The unknown also has a secondary power. Every 45 seconds, the unknown will leave behind a hallucination, which just looks like an idle unknown standing perfectly still. There can be only 4 hallucinations on the map at one time, and if you create a 5th one, it will remove the longest standing one that was created. Survivors becoming weakened cuts off 10 seconds from the time needed to create hallucinations. So if you weaken a survivor, it takes 10 seconds off of the 45 seconds required. Now here's the cool part. The unknown has the ability to teleport to any of his hallucinations, take their place, and then move on from there. Doing so will cause an audible sound effect, and all other hallucinations will crumble temporarily until the power is recharged. Survivors can try to remove the hallucinations by approaching them and interacting with them for 4 seconds. Doing this will remove the hallucination from the environment. However, if they get interrupted, not only will they suffer from the weakened effect, but they will give off killer instinct. The unknown's power provides strong map control and gives good chase potential. Survivors trying to look at you to remove their weakness won't always be able to focus on the obstacles in front of them, giving you an advantage in chase. Plus, the use of hallucinations to move around the map is incredibly helpful and can allow you to get some really good mind games going with survivors by jumping in front of them on their projected path. It can be very, very useful. Problem is, I'm not very good with the unknown's power, and I find that the bouncing ability of their projectile doesn't work well for me. I'm already bad with range killers to begin with, so adding a bounce effect to their range just it kind of confuses me at times. So I won't lie, the Unknown's power isn't one of my favorites. Now, as for their perks, the Unknown has 2 perks which are okay, and 1 which is downright useless. So let's get into them. The Unknown has Unbound, Undone, and Unforeseen. Get it? They're all unperks. So let's move on. Unbound. This perk is decent enough. When you enter a survivor, this perk activates for 20 seconds. During that 20 seconds, you gain a 15% haste status effect after vaulting a window. That's it. I can't say I've ever found much use out of it, but hey, there you go. If you want a good chase perk that allows you to hop over vaults very easily, Unbound's a good one. Undone is the perk that I find useless. Look, I know many people will disagree with me, and you're free to, but don't use this perk. Just don't. Look, here's how it works. Each time a survivor fails a skill check, this perk gains 3 tokens up to a maximum of 30. When you damage a generator, you spend all your tokens to automatically regress the generator for 1% per token, and you block the generator for 1 second per token. This perk then goes on cooldown for 60 seconds. Okay, this perk is shit for 3 reasons. First, it relies on the survivor's missing skill checks, which you have no way of controlling, and thus you'd only get real use out of from this perk if the survivors are new, blind, or you're running a perk to help make them miss, like if you're running Hex Huntress Lullaby, or if you're playing Doctor and you can make the skill checks a lot harder. Second, it has a cooldown of 60 seconds, meaning that even if you do get value for this perk, you can use it once to stop 1 generator, but then you have to wait to use it again. And third, the generator you hit doesn't start regressing until after the block is done. That means that, let's say the survivor missed 1 skill check. You gain 3 tokens. You hurry over to check it out and you damage a generator. It automatically loses 3% and then gets blocked. But only after those 3 seconds will it become unblocked and start regressing normally. By that time, the hiding survivor could sneak out and recover what time they lost. I'm not against punishing missed skill checks, but this is too dependent on it and with no good way to gain value. I'll be honest, this perk, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the weakest killer perks out there. It just really is. It relies way too much on survivors making mistakes when I feel like a good killer perk should rely on survivors doing something that helps them but helps you in the process. Like, think about it like this. Like, in what circumstance would this perk gain a lot of traction? Think of it like this, actually. If a survivor misses a skill check, you automatically want to go check out the generator where they screwed up because that's a sign of where they are. But by doing that, you only gain 3 tokens. You're not able to put real value on this unless all the survivors are constantly missing skill checks, which is almost impossible to do since the survivors are wanting to get good skill checks. Like I said, too many problems with this perk. And then Unforeseen. This perk isn't too bad and it's pretty basic. When you damage a generator for 30 seconds, you transfer your terror radius to that generator and you become undetectable. Yeah, you can't hate on that one. It works out pretty well. Basically, you become undetectable, leave your terror radius with that generator, so survivors are less likely to go back to that generator, and you are a sneaky SOB. Works out pretty well. I don't mind this one at all. And these perks can work pretty well on other killers as well, except for that one that I just mentioned, Unbound. Like, it's not good. It's not good. But that's going to wrap it up for the Unknown and the All Things Wicked chapter. Honestly, this wasn't a bad one. Like I said, Sable Ward almost changed the meta for Survivor play, and the Unknown is one of the scariest killers I've ever seen in the game, and definitely has a unique power to them in design. But now that we're done with that, we're moving on to the D&D chapter of Dead by Daylight. That's right, we're going to be talking about the new Dungeons & Dragons Survivor, and the unique killer that came along with it, Vecna. Oh boy, I can't wait to talk about this. This is going to be fun. But anyway, that is for next time in the fog. Take care.
I shall draw out your ending as I see fit. For in dark places such as this, one must keep themselves entertained.